Buying an investment property is arguably going to be the biggest financial decision that you make for yourself and your family. So we don't want to go out there and making that decision flippantly. We want to make sure that we've done the research and we understand exactly why we're purchasing an investment property. Now, in today's video, we're going to break down some of the resources that we use on a regular basis to learn more about property investing so that you can put yourself in the best possible position to capitalize on the market and generate an amazing return on your investment. Now, just like anything in life, the first step to overcoming your challenges is becoming aware of those challenges. Now, with property investing, there's so many different intricacies that come into play that are going to impact your decision down the line that you're just not going to really know at the moment. But if you can read some books, if you can follow some articles, you can follow some blogs, you can follow some email subscriptions and things like that, you will start to build a much more well-rounded understanding of property investing here in Australia, which will help you get better results and make that journey to financial freedom just that little bit easier. So where would you start if you were telling people about where they can learn more about property investing?
It's funny, I actually had a client ask exactly this question last week. So she bought a property with us about 6 months ago, and we kind of had our 6-month review about the property, where she's at right now and where her and her partner want to get to. And she said, so how do you get all of the information that you share with us as clients? Like, where does that come from? Can you help me understand some of the websites and books and things that you guys read so that she can kind of go out and smash it on her own? So it's funny that we're talking about this today because it feels pretty familiar. But I think personally, in this day and age, subscribing to some really decent podcasts and following YouTube channels and subscribing to YouTube is really, really important. They're things that everyone can listen to or follow on your daily commute. You're not having to sit there and read a book. If you're a busy mum like myself, I find the only time I get time to myself is when I'm in the car driving to and from work. So listening to podcasts or a YouTube video in that kind of 45-minute drive is the best way I can absorb some information. I find the Property Couch is a really great sort of tool to use. They're very, very knowledgeable guys. They share a lot of information for free through their podcast, and I think they're a really interesting place to start. And obviously us at Pumped on Property, we've put out thousands of free education pieces via YouTube and via our podcast channel that you can follow yourself. And these are things where you're going to be able to learn how to invest in property, where to start, how to identify the right markets, how to look for the decent key performance indicators within suburbs, and everything like that that's just going to give you a fundamental high-level bit of knowledge to kind of get an understanding on where to start your property investment journey. And it's just about finding podcasts and channels that align with your values and that have information that you feel is relevant to the journey you want to take with property investing.
Hell yeah. And I think, with the Property Couch guys and with us, there's a lot of non-biased information on there, and there's a lot of actual educational information, as you said, about identifying the right markets, the right suburbs, the right properties, building your team of advisors, how to use equity, anything that you can think about, there is that information out there if you're willing to listen and learn. I also love Aussie Firebug as well. Like, that's a great podcast if you want some case studies. I find case studies can be good because you might find that person that you align with from a values and a goals perspective, and you're like, oh, wow, that person can do it. I can do it as well. But not everybody is a listener. Some people do prefer to read books. I'm probably more of the listener. Like, I'd prefer to do Audible and things like that. But most people that I talk with do prefer to read the book. So there's some amazing books out there that you can leverage off as well. My favorite here in Australia, the Australian specific one, is Mastering the Australian Housing Market by John Lindeman. This book is very non-biased, just gives you some really clear information about the history of Australian property investing, and will give you some good ideas to think about and some red flags to avoid when trying to find your next property. That's really one of the only ones that I love here in Australia. I find a lot of the other ones are either outdated or quite biased for any particular strategy. So always be cautious when you are learning about property investing, where the incentives are for any person that's trying to give you some information. But three of the actual best books that you can read as a property investor is less about actually investing in property, but more about understanding why property is such a good asset to invest in and how history has impacted the property markets around the world. Now, Fred Harrison is an amazing author, economist from the United Kingdom that's written 2 books that have got some really amazing information based off 350 years worth of property cycles in the United Kingdom. So he's written Boom, Bust and The Power in the Land. Highly recommend reading both of those books because this will give you an understanding as to when you should be buying and when you should be selling. Then there's also The Secret Life of Real Estate and Banking by Phil Anderson. This is our Bible of property investing. It gives us so much information. It's based off 250 years worth of real estate cycles in the United States. Very historic data. There's not many economists or analysts that go back that far, but he gives you really clear ideas as to when certain markets perform and why, certain governmental influences that impact the property market, when it's easier to get money, when it's harder to get money, and why. There is some really important information. Now, if you're going to buy that book, it is quite expensive, but worth every penny and more. Always read, I would advise, the last couple of chapters first and then go back to the beginning of the book because you're going to get a lot more context. Now, the guys, Phil Anderson and his right-hand man, Akhil Patel, have been hosted on the Shepherd Walwyn podcast. You can find that on YouTube or on Spotify, where they talk about the book and the cycle, and you can get a little bit more information if you're not willing to read a 500-page, very data-driven analytical book. So there's lots of information, but those are the books that I would 100% read if you're looking to be a long-term property investor.
I think one of the other really powerful tools you can use as a property investor, just to get generalized market updates, a little bit of knowledge on a frequent basis, is subscribing to emails from some of the market-based and knowledge-based websites. So we subscribe to Commonwealth Bank, so CBA updates. We subscribe to Michael Matusik, who shares anywhere between 2 or 3 emails every single week. Some of them are a little bit biased, some of them not so much, where it is just a pure market update on what's happening then and there. We subscribe to Heron Todd White, HTW. We subscribe to Property Share Markets and Economics, SQM. There's obviously a lot of others out there that you can subscribe to that will just send you emails straight to your inbox. So you don't even have to think about it. You just jump in whenever you're in your emails and have a little look through. A lot of them are pretty short because they're sending regular updates, which I think is a great thing if you don't have the time, again, to jump in and read a full book. And it's usually very market-specific based information that you're getting because it's up to date, it's weekly, it's monthly. So subscribing to some really good emails is one of the best ways that you can just get that frequent information straight to your inbox and have the chance to continue to stay updated with what's happening in the investment market.
I love just getting a well-rounded perspective as well. There's lots of different opinions there, and you can sort of see what each individual is thinking, and they're all very successful investors as well. The last thing that we use frequently is subscribing to or like looking at websites and blogs and things like that. My favorite is Property Share Market Economics. They do longer articles as well just to educate you on what's happening around the globe and how that's influencing the property market. I also love Cycles, Trends and Forecasts. They're more Australian specific and go into a lot of depth about the cycle as well. But then Simon Priestley from Propertyology does some of the best blogs I've ever read, does really well-rounded information based off data and logic as well. He's so awesome when he writes as well. I really love the way that Simon writes there. And then you got the Core Logic monthly indices as well. This can be a really good one to get super specific data where you can look at the month, the quarter, the yearly movements for any particular property markets or assets around Australia. They'll look at specific capital cities, specific regional markets, house performance, unit performance, and you can actually get a clear indication as to what is actually happening. Because I find a lot of different resources like ABC News, the Australian Financial Review, realestate.com, some of the major media outlets, they will do the big scary headlines, but then once you get into the actual information, the data is skewed and it's pulling certain stuff out and putting certain stuff in to make the data look a little bit different, where Core Logic is super non-biased. You're just going to get the absolute clear reality as to what is actually happening out there in the market, and that's going to obviously help you make better decisions. But there's so many resources out there these days, guys. Most of these are absolutely free of charge as well. So it is 100% a choice as to whether or not you want to learn more about property investing and make smarter decisions. Now, if you've got any friends out there at the moment that are considering purchasing a property and don't know where to start and are feeling a little bit overwhelmed, then this is the perfect video to share with them. Or go out there, buy them the book or buy them a subscription to one of these emails. You know, really help and support one another to make better decisions as well, because we're all in this together. We're all investing in the same assets. We're all working towards the same goal in the long-term future of financial freedom. So let's support each other to make better decisions, to get a better return on our investment and have an easier journey to financial freedom. But either way, guys, thank you so much for listening, and I hope you've learned a thing or two today.
Woo!
That's a wrap.
That's a wrap.
Getting cool, bro. Yeah.
Oh, sweaty. So sweaty. Oh, that's good. Look at that. So nice, eh? Oh.